Resume its sitting. I call upon the Minister for Health and Social Development, Honorable Vincent Wheatley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I beg to report that a bill entitled BVI Health Services Authority Amendment Bill 2024 has passed through committee with amendments. Madam Speaker, I move that a bill entitled BVI Health Services Authority Amendment Bill 2024 be read a third time and passed as amended.
Madam Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Honorable members, it has been moved and seconded that the bill entitled BVI Health Services Authority Amendment Bill 2024 be now read a third time and passed as amended. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The motion is passed. I call upon the clerk to read the bill a third time.
This bill may be cited as BVI Health Services Authority Amendment Bill 2024.
The bill has been read a third time and passed with amendments. I call upon the clerk. I call upon the Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to move the following motion. Whereas by Section 32 of the Public Finance Management Act 2004, the government of the Virgin Islands or a person acting on behalf of the government shall not borrow money except in accordance with an enactment or on the authority of a resolution of the House of Assembly. Whereas the government of the Virgin Islands is desirous of borrowing the sum of $100 million for the purpose of A, financing identified critical government infrastructural projects, including but not limited to recurrent expenditure and capital expenditure. B, refinancing balloon payments due in 2026 on existing loans. And C, paying transaction costs associated with arranging the facility. Whereas First Caribbean International Bank Cayman Limited has agreed to grant a loan facility of $100 million to the government of the Virgin Islands for the purposes mentioned above. Whereas it is agreed between CIBC Caribbean and the government of the Virgin Islands that the loan facility shall be repaid over a period of 18 years and on the following terms. A, interest rate, option 1, fixed rate at 6.5% per annum for up to 10 years, reset thereafter either based on the floating rate pricing under option 2 below, or a new fixed rate to be agreed at expiration of the fixed rate term. Option 2, 6 months SOFR plus 2.25% reset semi-annually, subject to a SOFR floor of 0%. The interest rate shall increase by 25 basis points for each notch in downgrade of the government's sovereign credit rating by Carrie Chris Rating Agency. Substitution of Carrie Chris with one of the big three rating agencies is permissible. Interest rates are subject to financial close occurring within 90 days of execution of the commitment letter. B, interest is to be paid semi-annually in arrears, starting 2 quarters after financial close and calculated on an actual 360-day basis. C, repayment moratorium on principal payments for the first 3 years. Following a moratorium period, the outstanding balance of the facility is to be repaid via equal semi-annual payments of principal based on a 15-year amortization profile. Now therefore be it resolved that the House of Assembly of the Virgin Islands approves the borrowing by the government of the Virgin Islands from the CIBC Caribbean of a sum of $100 million for the purposes mentioned in Recital 2 and the terms that the loan facility shall be repaid over a period of 18 years and on the following terms. A, interest rates. Option 1, fixed rate at 6.5% per annum for up to 10 years. Reset thereafter either based on the floating rate pricing under option 2 below, or new fixed rate to be agreed at expiration of the fixed rate term. Option 2, 6 months SOFR plus 2.25% reset semi-annually, subject to a SOFR floor of 0%. The interest rate shall increase by 25 basis points per each notch in downgrade of government sovereign credit rating by Carrie Chris Rating Agency. The substitution of Carrie Chris with one of the big three rating agencies is permissible. Interest rates are subject to financial close occurring within 90 days of execution of the commitment letter. B, interest payment. Interest is to be paid semi-annually in arrears starting 2 quarters after financial close and calculated on an actual 360-day basis. And C, repayment moratorium on principal payments for the first 3 years. Following a moratorium period, the outstanding balance of the facility is to be repaid via equal semi-annual payments on principal based on a 15-year amortization profile. Madam Speaker, I'll just give a brief statement on the resolution. Madam Speaker, it is with a deep sense of pride that I lay on the table of this Honorable House a resolution which represents an opportunity that has been on my government's agenda in both this and the previous administrations. On the 6th day of September, we remembered the 7th anniversary of a dark day, and for some of us, a dark period in the history of the Virgin Islands. Madam Speaker, many of us remember the passage of Hurricane Irma that impacted the territory as a Category 5 hurricane, with wind speeds surpassing the upper threshold for this classification of hurricanes. Many of us remember the Hurricane Irma and sometimes lose sight that it impacted the Virgin Islands at a time when it was already in a vulnerable state, just 1 month after experiencing torrential rains that caused severe damage to our public infrastructure, homes, and property. And Madam Speaker, the damaged state of the territory was further exacerbated by the passage of Hurricane Maria, another lingering Category 5 storm, about 2 weeks after the devastation caused by Hurricane Irma. Madam Speaker, the estimated cost of the damage caused by Hurricanes Irma and Maria was an estimated $3.6 billion, which was about 3 times the annual gross domestic product of the Virgin Islands. The damage to land-based infrastructure was substantial and estimated at around $482 million. In an effort to fund the recovery, including the rehabilitation, restoration, and reconstruction of critical infrastructure throughout the territory, Madam Speaker, the government borrowed $67,540,000 from the Caribbean Development Bank in 2017. These loan funds, combined with the use of local government funds, continue to be the main sources of financing the recovery. The Caribbean Development Bank loan is still being used for ongoing projects, including reconstruction and modernization of the Eslin Henley Richey Learning Center and the development of the West End Ferry Terminal. Madam Speaker, notwithstanding our good efforts to fund outstanding projects under the recovery program and new critical development projects, the expenditure bill continues to rise annually. This rise can be attributed to variables such as the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic, a higher demand for government services, increased reporting responsibilities and fulfillment of the recommendations of the Commission of Inquiry and the AML-CFT mutual evaluation. Madam Speaker, with traditional revenue streams remaining steady with no significant growth, and new revenue measures slow in realizing noticeable gains, the level of savings is no longer sufficient to sustainably finance the development of infrastructure. Madam Speaker, I have been consistent in my messaging that we have to borrow in order to fund infrastructural development. I shared this vision with the Ministry of Finance and requested that ministries and departments be engaged to develop a list of projects based on government priorities that could be candidates for loan funding. Madam Speaker, a project portfolio was finalized that included both recovery and new development projects aimed at fostering economic growth and development of the territory over the medium to long term. The budgetary cost of the project portfolio is $91,650,000 spread across 4 years. Madam Speaker, to deliver the infrastructure development program, the government proposes to secure a loan facility in the amount of $100 million, which is consistent with the 2024 to 2026 medium-term fiscal plan and the 2024 to 2026 medium-term debt strategy. Madam Speaker, a formal procurement process was launched on the 26th April 2024, where 6 local institutions were invited to respond to a request for proposal and submit proposals no later than the 28th of May 2024. Madam Speaker, 4 proposals were received from VP Bank Limited, Republic Bank Limited, CIBC First Caribbean International Bank Limited, and Banco Popular de Puerto Rico. Following a rigorous evaluation of the proposals, the Central Tenders Board recommended and Cabinet accepted the proposal submitted by CIBC First Caribbean Bank Limited, subject to further negotiations on the indicative terms and conditions. Madam Speaker, the purpose of the loan proceeds will be financing identified critical government infrastructural projects, including but not limited to recurrent expenditure and capital expenditure in the amount of $91,065,000. Refinancing balloon payments due in 2026 on existing loans, the amount $7,910. Paying transaction costs associated with arranging the loan facility in the amount of $440,000. Madam Speaker, I already read the terms of the loan, so I won't repeat that. Madam Speaker, I am cognizant that the acquisition of this new loan will add to central government's overall debt stock. Our assessment on the impacts of the loan on our fiscal performance demonstrates that the loan is manageable and can be sustained. Madam Speaker, this is evident in the medium-term debt strategy. Therefore, Madam Speaker, I look forward to healthy discussions and the support of this Honorable House in securing this new loan facility that will allow us as a territory to make significant strides in developing our infrastructure. Madam Speaker, I'll just, for the benefit of the public, Madam Speaker, I'll just give some examples of the loan, of the projects that will be funded through this loan facility. Madam Speaker, I won't give all, but I'll just give some. We have the Virgin Islands School of Technical Studies, which will be benefiting. We'll have the construction of a national detention center. We have a hospital improvement. We have improvements at the airport. We have water network improvement, including the transmission, distribution, and sub-distribution lines throughout the territory. We have the R.T. O'Neill Administration Complex. We have a road town improvement plan. National Sewage Program, King Garden Bay. National Sewage Program, Eastern Long Look. Reconstruction and improvement of primary roads throughout the territory. Refinancing of existing loan facility, and also closing fees, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, just to end off, I just emphasize the point I said in the statement. Madam Speaker, our debt position is favorable. Of course, we know that we have signed on to the protocols for effective financial management, which has ratios that we have to adhere to. The ones here which would be certainly, well, all of them would be relevant, Madam Speaker, because of course we have a 25% liquidity ratio, and of course we have to ensure that we maintain that, especially as it pertains to seeking to find monies to debt finance. We also have 10% debt financing ratio that we have to maintain, as perhaps maybe the most challenging one to maintain. And also, of course, we have, I believe it's around 80% debt to it's most likely recurrent expenditure ratio that we have to maintain, or recurrent revenue. I'll have to check whether it's recurrent revenue or recurrent expenditure, Madam Speaker. And we're far off of that. That one is not a challenge at all. And as it pertains to our rate of borrowing, far below what many other countries in the world borrow. So that is not a challenge. The main challenge for us to ensure that we can finance our debt and we maintain our liquidity ratios. Madam Speaker, of course, we know that recurrent expenditure has been rising over the years, and it makes it difficult to stay within the ratios. And it also has made it difficult to finance our capital development. And of course, we know about the devastation of the hurricanes, hence we have to borrow. But we also need a strategy, Madam Speaker, to bring in more revenue to meet all our obligations. And that's why we are investing in the tourism sector, ensuring that tourism brings in a bigger amount of revenue than it does right now. And many other things that we're doing. Of course, we spoke about pension reform, areas where we are leaking money, unfunded liability, which is pension. We have to deal with that. And a number of other things that we have spoken about over the years, we have to deal with to ensure that we can sustain borrowing, the financing of our debt. Madam Speaker, I mentioned some of the projects. Mr. Speaker, my apologies. I mentioned some of the projects, but I'll just say a few quick words about that. We did quite a lot of work between 2019 and 2023 on recovering the Virgin Islands from the disasters of the hurricane. The RDA played a major role in that. I recognize the leader of the opposition, who was a chairman of the RDA for a lot of that work before he decided to join back the political fray. But the RDA, I believe, did a good job in helping us to recover, along with central government that had its good share of projects. But I don't think we can point to a period, a 4-year period, where there would have been more work done in the history of the Virgin Islands. And that is just because of the scale of the disaster. The scale of the disaster that we were faced with, the whole of the Virgin Islands was destroyed. And we take it for granted a lot of the work that was done, but all our recreational facilities were destroyed and had to be rebuilt. A lot of our schools Majority of our schools were destroyed, had to be rebuilt. Majority of our administrative complexes and offices were destroyed. Our reservoirs were destroyed. Just up and down the Virgin Islands, everything was destroyed and had to be rebuilt. That $65 million loan that the previous administration got was very helpful in helping the Virgin Islands to be able to recover. But with the exception of just a few projects left under that loan, just about all that money has been expended. So it is necessary to get another loan to complete to complete the recovery of the Virgin Islands with a great deal of critical infrastructural projects left to be done. Notably, we have a lot of work that has to be done to our roads. We recognize that. And the Minister of Communications and Works has been screening him from the mountaintops that he needs the resources necessary to be able to remedy, to rehabilitate and reconstruct the roads in the Virgin Islands. And I see that we've gotten some work started with the asphalting, but he would have a significant amount of resources, not all the resources he needs, by the way, but a significant amount of resources to be able to put into the roads. We look forward to good work happening on our roads and our water infrastructure and our sewage infrastructure. All of those have to do with the roads. So, Madam, Mr. Speaker, you know, the infrastructure has been a big bone of contention. So this loan facility coming to this House of Assembly to be approved is a very positive thing for the people of the Virgin Islands. It signals, you know, that we have made a significant push to get our infrastructure repaired, and we can really move forward with our aspirations for the people of the Virgin Islands, for them having a very solid economy, solid infrastructure, and solid public services delivered to them, Mr. Speaker. So having said that, Mr. Speaker, I look forward to a robust debate on this loan facility, and I'm looking forward to having it agreed so that we can push forward with the work on behalf of the people of the Virgin Islands. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member for the third. Oh, sorry.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion.
Thank you. Honorable members, the motion has been moved and seconded. The floor is now open for debate. I recognize Honorable Myron Warren.
Yes, just before the member debates, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, sir.
And I want to beg for your indulgence going forward in case I say that when I'm debating. I hope not to do it. There are two options that presented themselves in the loan agreement. The Premier and the Minister of Finance is coming to this House to approve a resolution, but he has not said which option, unless I had a senior moment and I didn't hear it. Which option as Finance Minister, after looking through properly, that he intends to use. He has to say something. It can't just be open up. There are two options.
Mr. Speaker, we are approving a loan facility with these terms, and it would be for my representatives to be able to go to the institution and choose the option which is most favorable at the given time. Of course, we know that things change as it pertains to the interest rates, etc. So the option which is most favorable, whether it's the fixed rate or whether it's the floating rate, based on the cost of borrowing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Transfer. Mr. Speaker, to say that I am concerned would be an understatement. The Premier is coming, the Minister of Finance is coming to this House, asking us to levy taxpayers for $100 million. He had up until today to even do the mathematics, see what interest rates would be, see which terms would be the most favorable terms. And you're telling me that he's coming to us and saying that his people will have to go back and see. So what exactly are we approving? Because if we are approving the resolution, inherent in that must be the option that we are going to use, or else it is an exercise in futility. And I continue to say how concerned I am about the management of the affairs of this country by the Minister of Finance. And this is another example that you are coming to the House completely ill-prepared. Completely ill-prepared. There are two options, and you can't say, as a finance minister, which one, based on your analysis, is the one that you recommend to this House to consider. That is what a finance minister should be doing. I was concerned before, and I'm even more concerned now.
Leader of the Opposition. Premier, would you like to respond?
I gave my presentation. Mr. Chair, I gave my presentation, and I'll respond in my wrap-up.
I recognize the member for the third.
I'm debating, you know. So,
Leader of Opposition, you have something you'd like to say? The member for the third, please. Member for the third, each member will be given 1 hour. Thank you.
I can live with that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm going somewhere with my argument on this, so don't get impatient. Mr. Speaker, I was at a funeral on Sunday, and among all the wonderful things that we can say about the deceased, Ms. Bernice Tobing, Leonard Tobing, that she has accomplished or has done in this world, and is leaving us, has left us, of all those wonderful things, which I thought about like everyone else. But in my own mind, I'm here thinking, I'm saying, I remember the days when our relatives left Tortola and went to St. Thomas. They hardly came back. It will be years in between they come back to look for us. But we would always go to look for them. It was an adventure to go to St. Thomas back in those days, back in the days. And as soon as you get on the land, the first thing they're going to start is asking you things like, how is my dad? How is my mom? How are my brothers and sisters? How are my friends that I left behind? And you, of course, are expected to give a report, because this is first-hand knowledge of what's taken place back home, that things that they have left behind. So what was going through my mind at times, I'm saying to myself, of all the wonderful things that this lady will have to report when she go over there about the Virgin Islands, there's one thing that she will report, and that is how miserable the whole idea of us as a people being subjugated to the colonial masters, the message being that we are inferior to them, still happening today. But it's a fact. You can't deny it, you can't avoid it. You ask me a question, I have to tell you, this is what's happening here today in the Virgin Islands. That's a report you would make when you get there. I remember, Mr. Speaker, in the 1960s, working in a bank, and when you accumulate a certain amount of cash at the bank in Tortola, you don't want to have too much cash sitting around. So you will take it to St. Thomas so that they can keep it. And here we are, take the ferry, Sunshine or the Youth back then, or the Empress, with a shopping bag, a brown shopping bag filled with cash. The only two people know what's in that bag is the two guys who are carrying it to St. Thomas. Now, fast forward to today. Here we are today borrowing $100 million from a bank on Tortola. Remember I said that we took the cash to St. Thomas, which means that the bank was not a Tortola bank. But today we're borrowing $100 million from a bank in Tortola. And what's the name of this bank? What's the name of the bank? What's the connection of that bank to Tortola? And I know when that bank came to Tortola, it was called Barclays Bank. Where that bank is headquartered right now, they were in the same position that we were in, with an English bank sitting on their territory. Today the bank is now headquartered in Cayman Islands. But we're borrowing $100 million from that bank. Mr. Speaker, why are we enriching others at this late stage in our development? It's late because a lot of years passed. The years have elapsed. We haven't grown commensurate with the years that have elapsed. But it's still late because it's our fault. We are enriching a bank headquarters in the Cayman Islands, just like nothing happened. If you do the calculation, if you do the math, at 6% per annum, over a 10-year period, that's $60 million we're paying out in interest, Mr. Speaker, to this bank. And we have a bank here in the Virgin Islands called the National Bank of the Virgin Islands. For those of you who did any form of economics, you understand how banks raise loans. If you walk down to the National Bank of the Virgin Islands tonight, this afternoon, tomorrow morning, and tell them you want to borrow $100 million, and they tell you their portfolio can't carry it, your responsibility as a Virgin Islander is to find out what would it take for your portfolio to carry that $100 billion. And you're talking about your administration is now in the second term. First term was 4 years. You're 2 years into the second term. This is 6 years before you came before us now to borrow $100 million. 6 years. Knowing full well that it is about time that we start enriching our own. It's about time that we start building our own institutions. How does the bank get to a position, if the National Bank of the Virgin Islands is not in a position to loan the government of the Virgin Islands $100 million, how would they get to that position? And this government isn't broke. This country is far from being broke, Mr. Speaker. We're borrowing money because it's fashionable to borrow money. All of us got money in our savings account at the bank. But if we want to buy a car, we're going to borrow the money from the bank. I know the Minister for Communication and Works could buy any Lexus, Mercedes he wants cash. But he wouldn't do that. He's going to borrow money from the bank. Same thing with the government. We got money. So why don't you enrich the National Bank of the Virgin Islands so that you can borrow the $100 million from the National Bank of the Virgin Islands and pay to them the $60 million over the 10-year period instead of paying it to some bank from Cayman Islands? Why not? Are we thinking long term? Or are we doing the things that are fashionable? It's fashionable to go to one of those commercial banks that does nothing for the people. Ask all the folks in here who has any form of involve themselves in community activities. When there is something happening, which bank do you see sponsoring anything? The National Bank of the Virgin Islands. The sponsorship doesn't have to be huge. It's just the intent and the idea, the fact that they support the things that take place in the territory. I don't see those other banks doing anything like that. We have to start looking and looking deep. We have to start thinking and thinking our own. We have to start thinking about the future. And I'm talking about starting the future by doing the things that we need to do now so that in the future, the long-term future, we would be where we need to be. Where we needed to be now. We're not there. Mr. Speaker, again, Madam Speaker, again, speaking about the borrowing, the whole issue of borrowing. We have a Social Security Board. Why not borrow from the Social Security Board, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, the legislation provides for us as a government to borrow from the Social Security Board up to 30% of the pension fund. And if I am thinking right, I'm counting right. Back in 2017, Madam Speaker, Social Security had a pension fund of, what was it back then? $632 million. That's 2017. Since then, I heard them boasting of up to $900 million. It should be $1 billion by now. I know the markets go up and the markets come down, but it should be $1 billion by now, their pension fund. And if you can borrow 30% of $1 billion, that's $300 million. Why are we borrowing from a foreign bank? And I want people to understand that when we talk about a loan, it's not a grant we're talking about. We're talking about a loan that the government is going to pay back. And the government of the Virgin Islands has never defaulted on a payment ever, and there's no indication that it ever will. So, Premier, I need to know, others may not want to know, I want to know now that I raised this issue. Why are we not looking within? Why are we looking outside? I know all our accounts are sitting with these foreign banks. And the government reserve or the government account is not small. We probably got $250 million sitting in accounts throughout the territory. Say whether it's a CD or savings account, checking account. We are good. Why aren't we tapping into our own resources and growing those institutions with the resources instead of just giving it out to these banks? $100 million, when you look at it, Madam Speaker, when you look at it, $100 million sounds like a lot of money. But that's no money. Especially when you start talking about the fact that the effects of of 2017 Hurricane Irma is still with us. So $100 million is no money. Back in 2017, we had a loan guarantee from the UK government for $426 million. And that was 8 years ago. So what's $100 million today? The Premier said that over the last 4 years, the development in the territory has been greater than any other 4 years in the period. But I beg to differ with that significantly. But I can't see what $100 million can do for the territory. He mentioned some projects that he's going to take a look at. And I got some news for the Premier. There's no way that his government is going to be able to spend $100 million. Even if he get it tomorrow, he can't spend it. He's not going to get it spent. If he get $100, if his government spend 50 of that $100 million before his term ends, he's super lucky. 50 million. In the projects that he mentioned, he has in there the airport. So what are you going to do at the airport with the pittance that you're talking about? Out of that $100 million, so the many things that you said you're going to do, what are you going to do at the airport? Work on another welcome center? There's nobody to welcome at that airport. I go up there, I'm sitting in the, I don't even want to call it departure lounge. I'm sitting, before all this nonsense took place, when a member of the House of Assembly is traveling, they were sitting in a lounge. Now I go up there, I'm sitting in just like that, just sitting. I ask them, well, what's going on? Oh, I have to tell them days in advance that I'm coming so I can get inside of some lounge somewhere, whatever. And then you come here talking about you want to borrow $100 million and you want all support. I'm leaving and I'm getting treated like I don't know what. What kind of support you expect to get from us? What are you going to do at the airport is my question. The airport needs a runway. It needs a proper runway. You need to extend the runway at the airport. And $100 million, even if all that $100 million were going into that project, it couldn't make a dent. We have to think bigger. We're not thinking big enough. We have to think for the future. We're not thinking far enough into the future. You got a couple derelict boats down in Chicago Harbor. You didn't even say that, well, we're going to take some of this money and take those boats out of the harbor. Didn't even say that. You got water issues galore. You mentioned water infrastructure, but I know what that means. It means that I mentioned it. That's all it means. I'm not going to see anything significant done to the water situation in the territory. So when the member for the 6th got up and made his intervention on the grounds of insufficient information, they're not unfounded. And I'm sure that member after member in the opposition is going to do the same thing. I've said before, and I'm going to say it now. The government, the system of our system is that you got 5 people. They are ministers, and it's their responsibility to run the country. Anything you do is subject to criticism. You got 2 backbenchers there to praise you. That's not why we're here. Anything you do is subject to criticism. And if we find that it's not something that we can support, or it's something that we agree with, we're going to let you know. And that's exactly what I am doing right now. I'm saying to you that you swing. When you swing, you need to swing for the fence. Right now, you're just looking for a single. It's a bunt? And bunts don't come natural. You got to be good. If you want to lay down a bunt, you got to be good. Else you're going to get out. So right now, I'm not impressed. I'm not impressed for several reasons. So I mentioned enough of them already. Why I'm not impressed. So to you, $100 million is a lot, it sounds like a lot of money. I still insist that this territory needs that loan guarantee that the UK government offered us. I still insist that every trip you make to the UK, you need to have them reinstate that offer. If you say it's off the table, we need it back. We're not going to get anything out of the UK. We're not going to get anything out of them. So if they're offering you a $426 million loan guarantee, take it. That's about everything you're going to get. Because we need to fix the territory. Right now, there's an effort being made to fix a portion of the road in my district. There's an effort being made to fix a portion of the road. And that effort has been started since February of last year. February 2023, I remember very vividly when we were getting the keys handed over from the community center. And the minister and director of public works told me they want to bring that machine down because they're going to mill the road, we're going to this, we're going to that. Finally, they started the process to mill the road. But that is only a small section of the miles of roads that we need to fix in the territory. It's a small section. And if you're going to work on improving the infrastructure in the territory, it's a massive job. There's no two ways about it. It's a massive job. And it's going to entail a lot of money. This is not your personal fund, Premier. Why are you so cautious? Why are you so cautious to be borrowing $100 million, looking to borrow $100 million, knowing full well that $100 million is not going to do anything for us? By the time you finish spending the first $50 million, or by the time you finish spending the last $50 million, you can't see where the first 50 went. Take it from me. I'm telling you that I see in this country, we build airport terminals. We build airport runways. We build highways. I've seen them build cruise ship piers. We work on the water plants and all those things. What we need is going to require a heck of a lot more money than you are going to be spending. And it's going to take you forever. You watch, especially if you're getting money from, it's going to take you forever to get your hand on the money. So I am not optimistic at all. I'm not. We're already halfway into your term. Here you are borrowing $100 million, trying to borrow $100 million, and you can't tell the member for the sixth exactly which option you're going to choose. So by the time you go back into those option this and option that, and these are the same advisors who advise you, 60% wrong? 60%? That's to 20 million out of 30? Wrong? No. I'm not. I don't feel the way I should feel. I don't feel right about this whole thing. I sit quiet. I don't say much because I'm watching things as they unfold. I don't say much. But it's really nothing to write home about. You in your infinite wisdom, Premier, might be thinking that I will take care of my area, which is up your district. I'll take care of my area, and once I take care of that, I'm safe. Yeah, that's possible. But what about the rest of the territory? I heard a member for the 2nd District talk about he has a community center down there, and it's grown up in bush. He has a bathroom that's grown up in bush, it's this, is that. It's not just him. It's all of us have that problem. Ellis Thomas Downs. Ellis Thomas Downs, Madam Speaker. I've said to people in the past, one of the most magnificent, spectacular spectacle that you can behold is if you go up in the hills above Ellis Thomas Downs and look down. That's when it was Ellis Thomas Downs. After the hurricane, thank God for those bushes that everybody complained about. Thank God for those bushes. Because you can't see anything from the roads. You can't look down anymore. Because if you look down and you say Ellis Thomas Downs now, the government side has two at-large members on the government side. Yeah, I could understand the member for the 8th couldn't care less what happened down in the 3rd district. That's a district. And the member for the 5th don't care what happened in the 3rd. But you got two at-large members. They should care what happened in the 3rd. Whisper in his ears sometime to even if he does, well, he does come down there, but I wouldn't say he does go. I wouldn't know because I'll be home at night. I don't go out at night. But whisper in his ears that the 3rd isn't a place where you want to be anymore. The harbor is trash. Ellis Thomas Downs don't exist anymore. The roads, the water situation. Is there another district in the territory that look like the 3rd district? Is there another one? I can say it. I'm saying it. The government's responsibility is to develop the territory. The government's responsibility is to maintain the territory. District representatives don't have a budget. They don't have anything that they could go and say, well, I'm going to. If I can't even recommend an individual to cut some bush. Because according to the COI you call it, is you got an interest. And the officers wouldn't listen to me if I called them to tell them I want Mary to get the little whatever work it is to clean the park. They wouldn't listen to me. Oh, district representative not supposed to get involved in this. Okay, I'm telling the people no. That's what they're saying. Just like I told the people that took away the money that they gave us for, what was it called again? District allocation was for discretionary what? They took it away from us. So if a guy needs a little some money to go to the doctor with his eyes, an issue with his eyes, usually they would have come to us and we'll give them. We would recommend to the House of Assembly to give them X amount of dollars and they'll get it. And they'll go and get their eyes fixed. No, you can't do it anymore. People are still calling, but the only thing you could tell them is, I'm sorry. That opportunity is no longer available to us. We recommend that you go to social development. If they're on the phone, they'll hang up on you. When you mention social development, they'll hang up on you. If they're in your face, they suck their teeth and turn around and go on about their business. Like you did something, but I can't do anything better than, that's all I could tell them. So the government is who's responsible for fixing the territory and maintaining the territory. And I'm not telling you anything that you don't know, because when you went on the campaign trail, that's what you told the people. I could do it better than the other guy. You know, God knows how many people were there telling them that they could represent my district better than I can. They did it. But when you get the job, you fall down. Flat on your face on the job. So $100 million can't cut it. It doesn't impress me. I don't expect to see anything happening in my district with this $100 million. As you call, of the many things you mentioned, I didn't hear anything in my district. I see you say T. O'Neill Complex, some Rotong sewage, Long Look sewage, King Garden sewage. Hospital improvement, that's not my district. So I don't expect me to get up here and say, it's a good job and we're doing well and all the rest of it. I'm telling you, like I feel, like I see it. First of all, the territory itself, as far as institution building is concerned, isn't benefiting from it. Because the next administration, whoever that's going to be, well, it could be you. When you want to borrow money, you're going straight back to those same banks because you didn't build your own bank. And I don't want you to get up and wrap up and not tell me why you're not going to the Social Security Board for the money. Don't want you to do that. That's a facility that we have. We're not taking advantage of it. Don't want people grumbling in your ears that you shouldn't be using all money as Social Security. Money is there for this, is there for that. Yes, it is. I agree with you. But we're not, well, you took $60 million from them already, right? An administration that you were part of, and just took it as, and that money should be paid back to Social Security, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, that money that was taken from Social Security during the pandemic should be paid back to Social Security. The government should pay it back to Social Security. There's no argument. There's no justification for it. Every cent should be paid back to Social Security. Where does that money belongs to the people? Social Security puts money, invests money, whatever interest it makes on that investment belongs to the people. So whoever is listening, all of you who wants to be the leader of this country someday, put that in your book, that you're going to pay that money back to Social Security. Yes. And I'm serious as cancer when it comes to that. Stop taking the money out of Social Security and using it for nonsense. You want $60 million, you want $40 million to give away? Take it from the Treasury. Take it from the Consolidated Fund, not Social Security. So I want, you said you're going to do some improvement at the hospital. I wonder what those improvements are. Improvements at the hospital. First, we should maintain the hospital. Hospital was a facility that came with a lot of promise. Had a lot of promise when it came. Most of those promises have been dashed. And it's because, Madam Speaker, it's because of our governments who have failed to live up to their expectations or their promises when it comes to that facility. School system. Yes, we just built, we built a facility here on the campus, but we need to build more. Still got Altius Catlift to rebuild. Eslyn Henley, I understand that that's on the way. It's good. When are we going to get our senior citizen programs up and running? All of these things. What governments have been doing, Madam Speaker, is a travesty. What government has been doing. If you look at the facilities that we have, government continue to add new programs into the system by robbing those programs to establish new programs. They rob the existing programs, or like you go to the recreation grounds. No maintenance whatsoever. They ran to the ground. We had a softball field in Seacoast Bay. Well, it's only there. You got more bush in there than you have anywhere else. That was a fully functional softball field. We got a basketball court. There was a bathroom. Abandoned. I see the bathroom up and running. But who did it? Was it Unite BVI? Those people? What have we come to? There was an attendant for that bathroom full time. There was an attendant for the facilities at the softball field full time. We had good days in this territory. What happened to them? Everything has gone downhill, downhill. And then when you look, you see a new program established, a new department of government. We just snap our fingers and we open a new department of government. Right now, you're going to tell me, you're still here talking about the R.T. O'Neill complex. That's ridiculous. We'll be talking about that now. Out of this $100 million, you're telling me if you don't get this $100 million, that complex will not finish? But yet still, you could tell us that the government is paying $10 million a year for rent. Are we speaking through both sides of our mouth? We are speaking through both sides of our mouth. And hoping that the guy who's on your right don't hear what you said to the guy on the left. I don't believe for one moment, Madam Speaker, that there's a strategy behind this loan. I don't believe there's one. I believe this money is going to come, it's going to sit in a government account, and we're going to come here begging. The Ministry of Communications will be trying to begging to get some out, begging to get some spent, and what it was originally intended for, the purpose will change. You watch. But for the next 2 years, I'm not hopeful as to how much you're going to get and how much you're going to spend. So there's a whole lot more that can be said. I think that I've said exactly what I wanted to, what I thought I need to say. I rely on my colleagues to talk about all the other things that they see need to be spoken of as far as this loan is concerned, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. I now recognize the Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Ronnie Skelton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to give my contributions to the resolution before this House. Madam Speaker, where do I begin? Madam Speaker, let me begin with the resolution. Madam, this resolution cannot be in order. This resolution, Madam Speaker, if we just take the first part of the second part of the whereas of this resolution. This resolution is saying, whereas the government of the Virgin Islands is desirous of borrowing the sum of $100 million for the purpose of, and it says A, financing identified critical government infrastructural projects, including but not limited to recurrent expenditure and capital expenditure. There's no way this resolution could be in order. That can't be right. This resolution needs to go back, Madam Speaker, and be redrafted. And if you take the second part of it, B, refinancing balloons payment due in 2026 on existing loans, $100 million. Madam Speaker, if my memory serves me correctly, we have about, at the beginning of this year, in the budget process, we had about $130 million worth of debt. And by the end of this year, it probably reduced to like $107 million. Is the government saying that they can use this money to pay off most of the debt? Then there's no money. as the member for the third said, he has no hope that this makes any sense. So, Madam Speaker, I don't know what are we debating, whether we debating what came out of the Premier mouth, which says that he wants to do these infrastructural projects, road, water, airport, hospital. If he wants to do those things and he has a price tag on them, and he mentioned $91.4 million, then this don't make no sense. So this resolution has things in it that does not belong here. So, Madam Speaker, I was hoping to be interrupted to say that, we call a recess and we go correct this stuff and bring it back to the House. Because this don't make no sense. This is not a resolution that we can approve based on what the Premier and the Minister of Finance wants to do. And Madam Speaker, I ask, we are expected to approve $100 million worth of additional borrowing. But all we have is a 2-sheet piece of paper with no supporting documentation on this side of the aisle. I don't know if the other side has. We don't understand. You went out and you tender for this. You say 6 people, 4 came in. We don't have that evaluation. And this is the House that got to make the decision. We don't have that. We don't have the list of projects that the government intends to do with this, to use this money to fund. Madam Speaker, we don't even have the administrative cost of this facility, and people should know it. Because if I do simple mathematics, you have $91.4 million worth of projects. You borrowed $100 million, so it's $6.6 million worth of finance and legal and administrative costs. That's what this is all about. So all that stuff, and I know that it exists someplace. It has to exist someplace because I don't know how it would have passed through cabinet, and some of and they're saying this is the best offer, when the offer, Madam Speaker, is giving you a fixed rate for 10 years, 6.5%, and then they got option 2, which is basically a floating rate. Now, I don't think the government would want to choose a floating rate, and I don't think that you should agree to 10% fixed. Let's go 5 and reevaluate in the next 5, So without those documents, I think I shouldn't dance in the deck. I really can't, whether I give advice or whether I debate this stuff properly. But this cannot be a fit and proper resolution for us to debate, Madam Speaker. Help me out, because I don't understand what the first part is saying. Madam Speaker, we can approve this resolution the way it is. Oh, so Madam Speaker, you asked me to use my whole hour. Because this doesn't make any sense. Whoever, something went wrong, the wrong resolution came to the House. Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, And it says that it is based in your, and this is a gimmick, they're based in your borrowing and based on your region. And then you ain't got a region. Somebody put out something, say you got A minus. Eventually you got a B plus. And then it goes up at 25 percentage point. And when you're doing bad, they want to charge you more money. And when you're doing good, they want to charge you less. And you're a government, you're not a private citizen. You're a government, you need to negotiate things better than this. Madam Speaker, I tried to find out, I don't know how, it's not coming to my memory, what the whole interest. Are we sure this is the best that the government can do? Madam Speaker, it is true that the part of the resolution that is correct is that the first part is whereas Section 32 of the Public Finance Management Act 2004, number 2, 2004. Madam Speaker, I want you to know that I was wrong, and I think there was a minister when this thing came into being, 2004, Finance Management Act. And it says that no one or the government can borrow money except in accordance with an enactment here in this House or a resolution. So, Madam Speaker, if the resolution, we need to approve a resolution that reflects exactly what we're doing. And this doesn't tell me what we're doing. Madam Speaker, there's no doubt that the country needs to borrow the money. And my colleague from the third says clearly that $100 million probably ain't gonna fix the stuff that needs to be fixed in this country. Some of that was caused by the three natural disasters that we have had, which is the flood, Hurricane Irma, Hurricane Maria, and God forbid we don't get another one. And COVID, well, and the damages at that point in time was quite right, $3.6 billion, and we have done quite a bit for ourselves. And it took us, Madam Speaker, CDB approved approximately $69 million for us immediately to help us rebuild our country. And Sarah, I think there's some charges. Okay, and it took us from, I think that facility came in immediately after, like 2018. And 6 years into it, and we haven't used $65 million. And I hear the Premier mention that this $100 million has a lifespan. It will be used over 4 years. 4 years for $100 million with the infrastructure that we have in all the procurement rules that is in place now, Madam Speaker. We're not looking at no 4 years. We're looking at a much longer period. So, Madam Speaker, so I would like to see, at this side, would like to see a lot of the information that get us to this position. It should be laid here on the table of this House. If we are asked to approve this level of borrowing, we should have the supporting documents that justify this borrowing. And I know it exists. It has to exist. Whether the bank did it up themselves and you have it. I want to a bit later touch on a little bit about my colleague from the thought was saying, you know, concerning the local borrowing. Because as he rightfully said, the first 10 years, if you choose the option, which I don't see you have an option, if you choose the option for the first 10 years, 6%, the principal will be declining after the first 3 years. You probably could get about $45 million in interest payment. Why don't we give it to a local institution? Because as far as we understand, as far as I know, the government has always paid its debt wherever it went. It's a good habit we have. We pay our debt in any organizations we are in. We pay our debt in any borrowing that we have had for all these years that we've been in existence. So, Madam Speaker, you know, the member for the third is quite right, and I know he mentioned a national bank, but until we finance our national bank, capitalize our national bank properly, then there will be no borrowing to be had from it, because they need you to capitalize it properly so that they can go out and borrow on lending. And they can do that if they are properly capitalized. But Social Security, I think the last time we heard, Social Security had over 900 and something, close to $1 billion in assets. Even if the market dropped 10%, it doesn't affect them that bad that $100 million means anything to them. Because what are they doing with their money? They buy in bonds and U.S. Treasury bonds and stuff that America is using to build bridges and roads and infrastructure in America. So why can't we borrow it and build some of our stuff here? I disagree with some of the people who says that we shouldn't borrow it. What we need to make sure that when the actuary does the analysis, that is, there's more than sufficient fund to cover short, medium, and long-term debt. The rest needs to be invested so it can generate more cash. But at 6.5%, you know, I don't think that's a bad interest rate. The Fed just dropped interest rate a half a percentage point. You know, 50 basis points to drop it here the other day. So if they didn't drop it, you probably would have been paying 7%. And I don't know if this takes into effect at that time, because you probably have this a while now. So, Madam Speaker, I think some of the conditions that they put in on a government that has created an environment so that they can do business. They are doing business here, they're making money, and to put these stuff out, attach some of this stuff like your ordinary citizen, it doesn't make sense. And I know if you argue these points, they will drop them. Because that's what we created an economy so that they can make lots of money. So we need to use all leverage to get the best rates and the best set of monies for our people and for our country. So, Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I lost my paper. Oh. So, Madam Speaker, the government also, again, the financial ratios. That's something that, we should have to ask for those. That they should have been in the resolution or a fact sheet attached to the resolution so we don't have to ask these foolish questions. But the financial ratios should be something that we should know what they are. I know the Premier says that, the liquidity is good. What did you say? The debt ratio is fantastic. We might be a little over the debt ratio, and the solvency is good. But we need to see it on a piece of paper, just like how you bring a resolution that don't make no sense to me, because it tell me you borrowed money to pay recurrent expenditure, and if you're doing anything such, that means you have you don't have a balanced budget. The British is allowing you to go down a road that will put you in trouble, because this don't make no sense. So, Madam Speaker, even those simple ratios analysis we don't have. We don't have the term sheet, so to speak. I should have give you a term sheet that says what are the conditions. If we need to see this. I don't know if the ministers and cabinets saw all of this stuff, but why can't we have it? This is where we're making the $100 million decision. I know you call all we won't stop. I personally won't stop the loan if everything is in place, because we need to build our country. But we need to get a resolution that makes sense, and we need the information in order for us to make an informed decision. I don't want when everything goes wrong, somebody meet me on the street and tell me I wasn't there. I want to be able to say, yes, I was there and I saw the information and this is what they give me. So I can make a decision on good information, sound information. Right now I can't, because I don't have the information. Madam Speaker, if we go back to the resolution, the resolution is saying that it's an 18-year loan. 18-year loan. It's they pay interest during the first 3 years. Then say you have a moratorium on the interest and principal. Let's say you have a moratorium on the interest, so you're gonna pay more at the end. And then the whole it is subject to a Moody rating. It's either S&P, Moody, or Fitch rating. I see Fitch as one of those. Are these ratings done? And how long it takes to do a rating? They rush the rating, they give you a wrong rating, and if you drop 25 basis point, if you drop, your interest rate goes up. So they don't let nobody come and give you a quick rush rating, because if they get it wrong, you're gonna be downgraded. And we have to pay attention to stuff like that. And, this is saying also, Madam Speaker, in one of the clauses, the interest rates are subject to financial closure recorded within the next 90 days. And when did the clock start running? We don't know. When did the clock start running? Are we at the 89th day? Is this the 89th day? So we can't, again, and it says the interest rate is subject, so I guess it's 50% basis point that the Fed just dropped, so hopefully you will get a lower rate. Hopefully that will suggest that. I hope it does. You know, I don't think, Madam Speaker, the interest rate paid semi-annually, I think that's going to be serious cash flow issues if these things are not, if the funding is not used to generate revenue. If the first tranche of loans is not used to generate revenue, Madam Speaker, then we got a lot of problems on the hand. You know, and if I had to advise the government, which I am not paid to do, but I will look for those things like water, what people crying out for and they need. Spend the first tranche of money in the water system so you can stop paying all the money for water that we're not using or we can't get. You have to concentrate on revenue generating issues. Otherwise, if you go to those things that are not revenue generating, we're gonna be in trouble. Because we just made a $20 million mistake. And how do we plug that gap? I am still waiting on the Minister of Finance to tell us exactly how that gap is being plugged, because the budget is coming up now. That it needs serious attention. You know, if you're going to borrow this money, Madam Speaker, we need to be strategic in our thinking and how we go about implementing our projects. You know, Madam Speaker, you know, the acting you can give me an hour, but I won't use because I don't know what to do, Madam Speaker, because the resolution is in my mind, and based on what I know, this is not in order. This is not a resolution you could pass now, unless somebody, you know, we amend the resolution, and I don't have the power to amend the resolution. So, but the resolution needs to be amended. It needs to be a resolution that says exactly what we're going to be doing, and a resolution that's going to give us exactly what we want. And this doesn't do that. You know, it leaves option in it that those options should not be there. You know, because right now anybody, you know, in my personal capacity, a bank officer come to me with a term sheet and a thing. When I get it ready to sign or get ready to make a decision, I have to say exactly which part of the deal I'm taking. And this is what the government is asking of this House. This is what we want to do. We want the approval to do it. So we need a resolution that will give us exactly what the government intends to do and how it's going to work. And we need all the supporting documents for this resolution. So, Madam Speaker, with those few words, now I'll take my seat.
Thank you. Honorable members, at this time, we'll take the recess and return tomorrow at 10 a.m. House is now in recess.